right, let's talk about M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit from 2015, a found footage horror film, Blumhouse picture that is about two kids, Becca and Tyler, documenting their visit to their grandparents, who they are seeing for the first time in their lives. And during their 1 week visit, every day, the grandparents get increasingly more strange, and they discover a shocking secret about them. This was my second time watched it for the first time a couple of years ago, and I enjoy this movie. I think I even had it somewhere on my found footage ranking. It was probably number 10 or it was in my honorable mentions, but this is a good found footage movie. If you like found footage movies, if you just hate them, you're gonna hate this one too. But it's not like a found footage movie where it's like shaky all the time. They mainly just keep putting the camera in stationary positions. They're interviewing their grandparents a lot and interviewing each other, the brother and sister. The camera's not constantly like moving around, so it's not one of those found footage movies, and it doesn't have like that camera glitch trope. They drop the camera, it gets all staticky. Like, it's not one of those. So the things I liked about The Visit is probably the best thing about the movie is the performances from everyone. The kids, the grandparents, like the kids are two likable brother and sister, kind of like Jeepers Creepers that I just reviewed recently. That's another movie with a great brother and sister as the main characters. I liked this brother and sister also, and the performances from them. And it was interesting seeing these two specific actors together because they were in another movie together, not as brother and sister, but they were in Better Watch Out, a Christmas horror movie, like the year after this. So I was like, oh shit, like it's both of them. And the performances by the grandparents were terrific. They're really unsettling and creepy in a lot of moments. There's a few disturbing moments in the movie. There's a moment where the grandma's just walking around the house butt ass naked and she's like acting like an animal. And there's a sequence underneath the house where something just comes out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck is that? And it's pretty terrifying in the moment. And so I thought the movie had a good blend of suspense and humor. It's definitely like a horror comedy, and there's uncomfortable laughter, and then there's just genuine laughter that was meant to make you laugh. And it's a horror movie that also has some heart, like some good character development and a powerful message of forgiveness at the end. So it has something to say. Getting into any dislikes is I thought the movie's pacing in the middle was just a little slow. I started to kind of fall out of it a little bit in the middle where nothing was really happening. It was just the brother and sister talking a bunch and nothing really happening creepy anymore. It just needed a little bit more in the middle for me. And the twist seems kind of obvious, but I never got to watch the movie without knowing the twist already because for some reason back in 2015 my dad and sister went to go see this movie, and when they came back they just were like, yeah, we went to see this movie and then this happened. I was like, oh, thanks. Now I'll forever remember that. So they fucked that up for me. But as I was watching the movie, I was like, yeah, it seems pretty obvious, especially in one moment with the webcam thing. I was like, yeah, it seems obvious what the twist is going to be. But I can't be sure if I would have predicted it on my own or not. I don't know. But it seemed kind of obvious. And there's some like tropes in here, like the cop trope thing always pisses me off. It just feels forced. Like they call the cops and they're just like, oh, we're unavailable. I was like, am I watching Barbarian again? What the fuck? Like, I hate that trope. It just doesn't seem believable to me. And they just give this weak excuse like, oh, it's just a hick town. There would be police available to go help. And of course, when they do arrive, it's when everything's said and done. That's a trope in 1,000 movies. The cops never arrive when they're needed. They arrive after everything's done. And, it's like, where were you 5 minutes ago? But so that's just an annoying trope. The whole cop thing, I hate it. And there's some other plot conveniences that you just have to look past. You have to suspend disbelief. And, just some things lining up perfectly. It's like, well, what if this happened instead? What if what if this person joined them on their adventure? Like, you're just like, whatever, you have to look past it. So, final thoughts. This is a found footage, kind of Hansel and Gretel like fairy tale that's grim and has some disturbing, creepy old folks for the villains, which is kind of rare in horror. And you have some uncomfortable, humorous moments, and it gets a little creepy from time to time, but you gotta look past some plot conveniences, and it's a bit dull in the middle. I feel like it could have been tightened by a couple of minutes, but it's still an enjoyable found footage movie. So when it comes to The Visit, I'll give it 3.5 out of 5. All right, spoilers. So the two kids, they survive the end of this movie, their encounter with these crazy people, and I have to wonder if all this footage that they clearly edited and put together, if they like sold it, because it's like this would make for a good horror movie. So I wonder if they took this footage and sold it to someone. Like, are they gonna make money off of this footage? Like, it was supposed to be a documentary at the beginning, not a horror film, but it was supposed to be this documentary that I'm sure she was gonna try to upload somewhere and make money off of it. But now it's like she's probably gonna be rich selling this footage to someone. All right, so we get our setup, and the mom's talking about how she hasn't seen her grandparents in over 15 years, and I guess never once showed her two kids pictures of her grandparents ever. So I guess she hated her parents that much that she never had any pictures on her anywhere that she could show her two kids before they left to go see them. Like, here's what they look like. Here's who you can look for at the train station. So, yeah, just a little convenience, whatever. So they decide they're going to document this visit, and when they get there, the grandpa's like, there's mold in the basement, so never go down there. And of course, instantly you're like, there's something else down there. The dead parents. So yeah, the twist of the movie is that the grandparents are not the grandparents. They're these two psychos from the psychiatric hospital, and where their grandparents worked at. I think they were like volunteers or something. They volunteered to help people there, and they told these two crazy people that their grandkids were coming by for the first time, and so that's how they knew that they were arriving. And the mom is not joining them. Think about how different this movie would have been if she decided to join them on their trip. But the reason why she did not join them is, A, she hates her parents, but B, she's going on a cruise ship. And so the grandma on night one is downstairs puking everywhere, just walking, puking, just projectile vomiting, like it's going pretty far. Just calmly walking, takes a few extra steps, pukes again, takes a couple steps, just keeps puking, which is pretty fucking weird. And then the next morning, they're playing hide and seek underneath the house, and the camera quickly turns this way, and all of a sudden, Grandma's like hopping like a frog, just hopping towards her very quickly. It's pretty fucking freaky, just so unexpected. And the grandpa is very paranoid. He is talking about how he's seen like this white ghost with yellow eyes or something, and he just runs up and attacks a stranger like, you're following us. And then on night two, they see Grandma butt-ass naked in the hallway, scratching on a door like a cat. And the grandpa gives some explanation. He calls it like sundowning or something. And the grandma on day 3 ruins their laptop webcam so that when they're talking to the mom, the mom can't see that it's not really her parents there, So that's the moment in the movie where you're definitely suspecting something's up. Like, why would she ruin the webcam? There's something that she doesn't want the mother to see. And every time they ask the grandparents about the mother, they just drop the subject. Like, they change subjects, or like, I don't want to answer, or they just start panicking. Like the grandma, every time the daughter's like, so what happened that night when mom left and you guys got in a fight? She just starts freaking out. She's like shaking, and at one point she's like smacking her head a bunch. There's 2 moments where someone from outside is visiting the house from this hospital, and both times, conveniently, the grandparents are nowhere around for the reveal that happens sooner. If they were there, the twist would have been showing itself pretty early on, but both times it's the kids answering the door and they're like, oh, the grandparents are out. So if they were there, yeah, that twist would have been revealed pretty soon. The grandma is in a rocking chair, just cackling, facing the wall, rocking back and forth. And the grandpa is in a shed storing shitty diapers, and he's cleaning a shotgun with the barrel in his mouth. And then the grandma finds the hidden camera that they put downstairs, and she just jumps in front of it, takes the camera, films herself grabbing a butcher knife, and then banging on the kid's bedroom door. And they find this footage the next morning. And I like the Michael Myers comment from the kid. Grandma's turning into Michael Myers after after nightfall. And so, yeah, that's when they're like, we need to get the fuck out of here tonight. And they webcam, with their mom, and they finally get the thing cleaned off. And that's when the reveal happens. Like, that's not your grandparents. And she calls the cops, and we hear on the other line the automated message saying, like, we don't have any available units in that area. And it's like, fuck off. Like, no. And this is like daytime, so probably like afternoon. And then it's like, it cuts to later that night. They're playing Yahtzee. It's hours later, and there's still no cops. She never could get, like, she couldn't reach them. I don't know. I just thought that was unbelievable. And they find Stacy hanging from a tree outside. How long has her body been there, and how did they not notice? Like, Stacy visited that morning. They saw her outside. They never saw her leave. They couldn't hear her conversation. And so, like, how long was she hanging from that tree? And how did they not ever see her body hanging all day until that moment? And she gets in the oven at one point, and she, like, shuts her in. You think she's gonna, like, turn it on, but she lets her right back out. And she was way more calm than I would have been, the daughter. She's like, Grandma, can you let me out? I would have been like, Grandma, get me the fuck out. And so, yeah, then they separate, and the daughter finds the bodies in the basement, and the grandpa, drags her upstairs and locks her with the grandma. And at one point, they establish that the son, or the brother, is a germaphobe. So, and that was all for this moment, where the grandpa takes one of his shitty diapers and just smears it in his face, just right in the kid's face, and he's just sitting there frozen, not doing anything. And they set that up earlier in the movie, where he's talking about this story about when he was playing football a few years ago. He just would freeze and he wouldn't tackle, and now he finally stops freezing, and he tackles the grandpa and bashes his head with the fridge door. And every time he goes to say a cuss word, he says like a pop singer's name instead, which was kind of funny. And they set up something with the sister not liking her own reflection. She never looks in the mirror when brushing her teeth or her hair. And it's a mirror that she looks into and breaks it and takes a shard of glass and stabs her fake grandma with it. And so, yeah, then that's when they kill their grandparents, or, their fake grandparents. And that's when the cops arrive. Oh, here you guys are. Where were you 4 hours ago when she initially was trying to call you bastards? And then the movie ends with the mom giving us the full story about what happened, why she left and never saw her parents again for 15 years. And sadly, we'll never get a chance to forgive them in person. And, because that was the last time she ever saw them 15 years ago. And because she held on to that anger and never forgave them, she never, now they're dead, she never had a chance to, well, she had the chance, but she just chose to never forgive them. And now she'll live with that for the rest of her life. Like, I never got to tell them I'm sorry and I forgive you. And now, like, she has to live with that. And she's telling her daughter, who's kind of going through a similar situation with her dad, who left them years ago, she doesn't forgive the father for it. And the mom's like, don't make the same mistake I did, because one day he could die, and then you're going to be like me, like, shit, I never got to say I forgive you or I'm sorry. So it's like, we get this great message at the end about forgiveness, and like, you should forgive people because, life is short. Like, don't hold on to grudges and anger and shit. Just let it go. And then during the end credits, Tyler's just rapping, which was kind of funny. So yeah, and yeah, what are your thoughts on this movie? Is it one of your favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies? Where does it sit in your M. Night Shyamalan ranking and found footage ranking? It's not my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film. I'm not sure which one would be, but yeah, it's definitely not the worst of his movies. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.